Hi students, today I am going to discuss about the topic of intussusception. It is also one of the causes for bowel obstruction. The definition: intussusception is a process in which a segment of intestine invaginates or telescopes into the adjoining intestinal lumen, causing bowel obstruction. It is nothing but a part of the intestine is being turned inside out or folded back on itself to form a pouch or like a cavity. That is the meaning of invagination. It is folded back by itself or turned inside out. That is known as invagination into the adjoining intestinal lumen, which causes bowel obstruction. Especially this is most commonly at the junction of ileum and the colon, although it can appear elsewhere in the intestinal tract. The most commonest area which is affected in the intussusception is ileocecum. That is, ileum will be folded back into the cecum. So that is called as a ileocecal intussusception. That is the most commonest form occurs. Apart from that, it may occur jejunal or ileal also. So the invagination is from above to downward, the upper portion of the intestine slipping over the lower portion by pulling the mesentery along with it. The incidences, it mainly affected 1 to 4% per 1000 live births, and the children those are having a celiac disease and cystic fibrosis disease are more commonly affected with this intussusceptional condition. Then coming to the sex, male children are more affected than the female children, that is 4:1. And 2/3 of children, if you see with intussusceptions, are younger than 1 year, and the most commonest age group is 5 to 10 months. Then intussusception is the most common cause of intestinal obstruction in patients aged from 5 months to 3 years of age. Then the etiology, the exact causes are known here also, that is meant by idiopathic. The pre-existing factors are if the child is frequently exposed to the upper respiratory tract infection or any other viral infection, especially rotavirus, adenovirus and all. Approximately, if you see 75% of the cases are idiopathic because there is no clear disease trigger. It is the exact cause we don't know, or it may be lead to some other condition also. That is pathological lead point, most common in children between 3 months to 5 years of age. 30% of the cases experiences are due to viral infections, that is upper respiratory tract infection, exposure to otitis media frequently, flu-like symptoms the child will be get before the onset of intussusception. The main cause, if you see to that viral infection, is adenovirus and rotavirus. Apart from that, due to enteric infections also, that is bacteria also, the child may develop a intussusception. The causative organisms are Salmonella, E. coli, Shigella and Campylobacter. Then the leading point, it is nothing but the cause, it is especially Meckel's diverticulum, polyps, any tumor, hematoma or any vascular malformations can cause intussusception among the children. In pathophysiology, already I told that the commonest area is the ileocecal wall. It is ileum telescopes into the inside the ascending colon. So due to the ileum presence in the ascending colon, there will be obstruction passage of the intestinal contents. So due to the obstruction, it will lead to bleeding. So the child will be passed a current jelly stools, that is with the mucus and blood. Stools will be with the mucus and the blood. So that is called as a current jelly stools. So around that area, ileocecal part, where the ileum is invaginated into the cecal part, there the blood vessels become trapped between the layers of the ileum and the cecal. So blood flow will be decreases. Due to the decreased blood flow, edema formation. So due to the blood flow decrease and the edema formation, it will lead to strangulation of the bowel. That is, the complete blood flow will be stopped. So this causes gangrene. The area become gangrene and it will lead to sepsis. Sepsis will cause hypovolemic shock. If it is not treated, it will lead to death. This is a picture of the intestine. So this is the ascending colon. The end part is known as cecum. This is the appendix. So the ileocecal valve, that is the most commonest form of a intussusception. You see in the first picture, you can see that the small intestine, that is ileum, will be invaginated into the large intestine, that is the ascending colon, that is cecum. The right side picture, if you see through that, the small intestine will be invaginated into the cecum, where the round is the black color, that is the intussusceptional area. Then coming to the clinical manifestation. So already I told that the child will be having a bloody mucus stools, that is known as a current jelly stools. And if you palpate the abdomen, we can feel a mass in the right quadrant, that is in the form of a sausage shaped. In picture, if you see, that is the picture which shows that sausage shape of. So sausage shaped abdominal mass in the right quadrant. So the ileum will be invaginated into the cecum. So the right ilia fossa will be empty. The space will be empty. So that is called as a dance sign. Then when you are palpating, the child will be have a pain, that is called as tenderness, and the child may develop a distended abdominal cavity due to the strangulation. And if it is not identified and treated, the child will be exposed to hypovolemic shock and sepsis, and the child will be experience pain, that is type of paroxysms of pain, fever due to the infection, and vomiting, which is non-bilious, prostration, that is mean by extreme weakness, then listless. Child will be tired. These are the clinical manifestation of intussusception. The three cardinal signs of intussusceptions are current jelly stools, sausage-shaped abdominal mass in the right upper quadrant, then dance sign. These are the three cardinal signs. And coming to the diagnostic evaluation, we have to go for a rectal examination, and palpation can show us that sausage-shaped mass can be felt. Then abdominal radiography report, then it shows that bowel obstruction. Then ultrasonography, we can find out the exact location of the edema as well as the obstruction, bowel obstruction. Then we can go for a confirmatory diagnosis with barium edema examination. Coming to the management, so already I told that child may be experience exposure to hypovolemic shock. So we have to maintain the fluid value. So we have to start with the intravenous fluid resuscitation. And the child may have a abdominal distension. For the decompression, we have to go for a gastric lavage. Then for pain, we have to go for a pain medication. That is, according to the weight of the baby, we have to administer morphine as the drug of choice to reduce the pain. Then, before going for a surgical correction, we can go for a non-therapeutic or non-operative technique that is called as a therapeutic enema, or it is known as a procedure of hydrostatic reduction. Procedure we can. Majority of the idiopathic cases, that is cause, which exact cause if it is unknown, that type of intersusceptional children will be recovered by this hydrostatic reduction. That is, therapeutic enemas can be used as a hydrostatic. Either we can use a barium or water soluble iodinized contrast material, or we can go for a pneumatic hydrostatic reduction, that is nothing but insufflation of a air. So this can be with the guidance of ultrasonic or fluoroscopic. We can perform this procedure as a non-operative technique for the children to recover from the intersusception. So when you are performing this procedure, you should keep the baby in a prone position. Then the tip of the enema catheter should be placed in the child's rectum, and we have to squeeze the buttocks of the child to avoid the leakage of air or fluid. Either water soluble iodinized contrast we can use, or we can use a barium, even normal saline, or we can use a pneumatic. Pneumatic means nothing but air insufflation can be done. So when you are using a pneumatic, that is, air pressure has to be maintained below 120 mm of Hg. If you are using a iodinized contrast method to reduce for the reduction procedure, then the enema bag should be placed 3 feet above the level of the rectum of the child. So intraluminal pressure has to be maintained between 60 to 80 mm of Hg. It should not be more than 120 mm of Hg. So once if you give a pressure either by using a normal saline or by using a iodinized contrast or barium enema or the air insufflation, so this ileum will be pushed out from the colon. So that is called as a hydrostatic reduction. So how can we identify whether the hydrostatic reduction is successful or not? By following the symptoms, that is resolution, disappearance of the abdominal mass, and the child passes the stool without blood and mucus. So the idiopathic intersusceptions are more likely to be successful by using this reduced non-operative hydrostatic reduction method. Suppose if the therapeutic enema method or hydrostatic reduction method, if it is failed, then we have to go for a surgical correction. That is nothing but which part of the intestine is non-viable. That is no peristalsis movement method. Okay. That is called as a resection of the non-viable intestinal part. So this, when we have to do, indicate that it is indicated for the patients with peritonitis or evidence of perforation, or the non-operative reduction procedure if it is unsuccessful. Then we have to go for a surgical correction, that is called as a resection of non-viable intestinal part. So this is a picture which shows that repair of intersusception. So you can, by seeing the picture, I think you can understand it. Then the complications are necrosis, bowel perforation from the strangulation, peritonitis and sepsis, hypovolemic or circulatory shock, electrolyte imbalance. Perforation may occur due to the non-operative reduction. It is nothing but hydrostatic reduction procedure. fluid infection, adhesions causing bowel obstructions, and chance of reoccurrence. And coming to the nursing management, so assessment, first and foremost thing is physical examination. So by doing physical examination, we can feel that sausage-shaped mass and the dance sign. Then we have to collect the history from the parents, whether the child is exposure to upper respiratory tract infection, whether the child is having a non-bilious vomiting, paroxysms of abdominal pain, passage of current jelly stools, has to be collected history. Then coming to the nursing diagnosis, based on the assessment, the possible nursing diagnosis are acute pain related to bowel invagination, deficient fluid value related to vomiting, nausea, fever and bronchosis, ineffective breathing pattern related to abdominal distension, anxiety related to change in the health status of the child. So the preoperative nursing management are, we have to assess the signs of any bowel obstruction is there or not. Then once the diagnosis is confirmed, then we have to plan for a hydrostatic reduction. So before that we have to insert an injective for gastric lavage. Then to decrease spasm, we'll have to administer a pain medications and sedatives. Then observe the passage of barium and note the characteristics of stools. It is a hydrostatic reduction procedure. If it is successful, then the child will be passage a stool without a blood and mucus. That is meant by the procedure is successful. If hydrostatic reduction is unsuccessful, then we have to prepare the child for the surgical correction. So we have to maintain the electrolyte and fluid balance. So for that we have to administer IV fluids. If the patient is developed sepsis and shock, then we have to administer blood or plasma according to the child condition. Then education has to be provided for the parents about the surgical correction, how we are going to perform, and the post-operative care has to be explained properly to the parents. Then the post-operative management, we have to keep the child nil per oral until the peristalsis movement starts. Then monitor strict IO chart, then nasogastric suctioning, administer pain medications and monitoring the vital signs. Thank you. I hope you will understand this.